Hey guys, it's Daniel Faust. We are in with Learn and Live, and we are in the superhero sanctum. And if you had never watched this before, during the 5th week of the month, which is a crazy 5th week, you're saying to yourself, it's not a 5th week. Yes, it is. Look at your calendar. But in the 5th week, we go over and do a superhero sanctum. So once every couple months, we grab subject matter experts, military veterans, first responders, sometimes patriots, depending on what happens, and we go over and help them go. And they come in. They teach us on what they bring to the table, and now we can become a true superhero and get those tactics into the door. So today, I got a special guest, good friend, mom, vetpreneur, entrepreneur, and it's Annette Marie Whittenberger. Did I say it right?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Names are horrible with me, so I'm glad I said it right. I've been practicing in my head for like the past 7 months. But anyway, so today we're gonna have her go bring some superhero tactic bombs, in a sense, go over, and she's gonna bring her story at first, and then we're gonna dive into what she's gonna bring to you. So let's start with your war hero story. How long were you in the service? What'd you go over and do? And then we'll transition to what wisdom you're gonna bring in.
Okay. So I was in the Army for over 17 years.
Ooh.
I retired about it's almost 4 years ago now. And I held on to feelings during being in the military because we were just taught not to talk about it. So anytime I was depressed or I was stressed out or whatever the case is, we just didn't talk about it. And so that consumed me over time. And then right when I was retiring, that's when it just all like came down on me. So after deployments, after just military life and raising children, um, I decided that to save my life, I needed to do something about it. And so that's when I started blogging and sharing my story and just talking about it and learning that I wasn't the only one, that I was not alone. And I think that's one of the most important things that I ever discovered going through.
Yeah. That was the same thing with me too. And the topic we're going to be talking about today, which Annette's going to go over and bring the wisdom to, is actually sexual trauma. And probably most people don't think about this, especially when they're in the military and whatnot. And there's military sexual trauma and then there's sexual trauma. But the overall stats in sexual trauma is 1 to 3 for ladies and 1 to 7 for men. So Annette's going to go share her story and go over and go through that. So if you want to continue on.
Yes, so I was actually sexually assaulted when I was 9, and I luckily I had parents that believed me and supported me because I was actually the only child of the person who did this to me who would come forth and testify. So I actually had to go through court and I testified and I did all these things a 9-year-old should never ever do, and then I blacked it out. I blacked it out. I was growing up, but I knew that it. Now I realize that it affected me in all my relationships. And so as I continued through life as a teenager, I went through relationships that were not so good. And then I joined the military, and then I was assaulted in the military twice. And it was like, you kind of just drive on after that. You don't, it happened over 20 years ago. So we didn't really talk about it back then. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
you just kept it, you kept it hidden. But when I did try to talk about it, it was kind of like, oh no, that didn't happen. That couldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And so rather than continue to fight for myself, just continue to drive on. And and now we're seeing it happen more and more, and it's heartbreaking because I think there just obviously there needs to be something done about it. It's just, what do we do? And so
Yeah, and it's huge. Sometimes, like, I, for myself, same thing. It was like, it was when I was a child for about a 6-year period. It was on and off, and it was one of those things, like, it didn't come to me in realization until I was teaching on sexual assault in the reserve side, and I started briefing, and they had this thing called Green Dot, and you had to bring up a vulnerable, transformative type conversation. And in the year before that, I realized I went through it, but it wasn't until I went through Green Dot I started to go over and get healing through it, because it does go over in effect. And I think most people don't know what to do. They don't know how to initially deal. And that is into our next question. Like, how did you initially deal? So you have the 9-year-old time, and then you kind of blocked out, like me and you did about the same thing. We kind of like, happy-go-lucky kid, and we're like, yeah, and inside we're like,
Hmm.
and and then it comes up again, either in one form or another, either the trauma happening again, or a situation or a trigger happens, or maybe a period in life. So how did you initially deal?
Well, as the 9-year-old, I don't even remember. I was trying to figure all that out a few days ago, like what exactly were the steps that had happened, and I remember bits and pieces, but all I knew is that I just changed schools. I just moved schools, made new friends, and lived in constant fear that he was going to come back and get me. And then as I grew up, I moved away, went to college, and it was kind of like, okay, that was, I don't think about that anymore.
Mhm.
um, but with the other two traumas, I mean, I did the same thing. I just kind of blocked it out and continued on. So as 4 years ago comes around, when I'm retiring and I'm diagnosed with depression and PTSD and anxiety, that's when it all came back. And I went through a dark depression.
Mm.
I mean, I've had suicide attempts. I've My kids, they we were talking about a story of, oh gosh, it's been a while ago. They made a comment that I used to drink a lot.
Oh.
I don't remember that.
Mm.
So it's all those little things, and my rage, my I was just not a nice person at
Mhm.
all. And so that's how I dealt with it, by not dealing with it. It was everybody else around me, and I didn't want to talk about it. You don't understand. I drank, I took pills. It was all these things that I never realized that I did. And I think that's where it brings me to now, is I'm no longer afraid. I was given another chance at life, and we could talk about that later, and I
Mhm.
needed to do something with it now.
Yeah. And that's huge. And everybody's going to deal with it differently in that regard. For me, it was repression and anything else. And then it triggered, and then it came up in my marriage. Like my bedroom life was affected by that. It still partially is that day. Like the kids asked me to go hug, and I'm like, molestation issues. And I look at my son and I'm like, if I didn't go through these things, would I have been him? Would I have been the snuggly, cuddly, cute, but kind of like rambunctious kid? Maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have, but it changes you in that particular regard. So let's get into healing, because for both of us, I think we've had healing, but we're talking about you today. May you walk us through your healing process, because everybody's healing process is different, but I know ladies struggle with it more than men. So, and I know this is the audience we're trying to hit for today. What did you do for your healing process?
When I retired, that's and I decided to start blogging, I had to just start talking. And it was late at night one night, and I was done with life, and I didn't know what else to do, and I called my high school friend, and she pretty much saved me. And the next day I just said, you know what, I can't live like this. So I started to write, but I was still not feeling I still felt there was something missing. It was like I was putting up a front. I wasn't being me. And I was still, I guess I was just trying to make everybody else happy.
Mm.
And so my daughter and I got in a car accident in 2018, and it was very traumatic. The doctors didn't know how we survived. Um, I still have, multiple injuries and all this, but it was then where it was like I woke up, because I had all these nurses, all these people telling me, "Oh my God, God must have had a plan for you, because there's no way you should be here." And I got used to get angry at listening to that. I'm like, "You don't know, you don't know my life, you don't know what I've been through." But it was in that instant where I finally realized, "Holy crap, I you're right. Like, I shouldn't be here."
Mm.
And I really needed to wake up, and I need to appreciate what I have and stop feeling so sorry for myself. So it was then in 2018 into now where I really went into my self healing journey. It was no longer just a random blog here and there. It was, I needed to just start talking, and it was
Mm.
scary. And the more people that I had reach out to me and say, thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your story. It was hard to hear that. But I knew that I was making a difference. And if I could save just one person's life, then, this is all, I don't want to say it was all worth it, but there was a reason behind it.
Hmm.
So that's how I started my process. It was the accident, and then it was just a wake up call, and then now I'm just fiercely on this mission to share that you are not alone, you're not the only person that's going through it, and here's my story, and I'm going to tell you how I got through it. And so that's what's helped me. Unfortunately, it was that wake up call.
Yeah, and everybody's going over and different in that particular regard. So, how's life now in comparison?
So I mean, I still have my days, but they're nowhere near how they used to be before. Each day is different. I have learned that I can't be too hard on myself anymore. I can't. I have to learn to have boundaries. I have to learn to take care of me. So if I try to do something every single day, but if I don't do something on a day, it's okay.
Hmm.
And I've taught my own kids the same thing. It's okay to not be okay. And sometimes you just need that break, or you need to take that nap, or you needed to just watch Netflix, or whatever the case is. It's okay to do that. Just remember to get back up the next day.
Hmm.
And I've also learned to turn my mess into my message, and I think this is why I share my story so loud and everywhere now.
Hmm.
And I've lost friends. I've got weird looks or comments like, why are you telling everybody your business? There's a reason why, and I'm okay with that. So this is it. This is me.
Yeah. And I think people don't factor this in there. When we talk about these statistics, it's everybody that's listening. So, an average community, let's go where I used to live in Lacey, and let's round it to 100,000. If 100,000 people are in that community, and let's say it's 100,000 ladies, if it's one out of three, that's 33,000 women. I want people to think about this is that the reason why we share these stories out here is because people are affected and people get resonated. When I published my marriage book, there's 86,000 marriage books. Is it really a point? Yeah, because someone's going to be connecting you, and that's the reason why. And also, people that are on here, if you're not sharing your stories out, you're not going to go over and get healing in that particular regard. So that might be just one way for you. If you're listening and you're in this audience and you're struggling, maybe to share your story. Maybe you don't need to get in public to go on like YouTube and be like, "Yeah, it's all about me." But maybe you need to get public in a journal. Maybe you need to get public with your spouse. Maybe you need to get public with your kids. Like I've told my kids, I'm like, I've been sexually molested, and they still don't have a concept because they don't understand enough about sex, but they can at least say it's like this. What are you doing? Is it good or is it bad? What's healthy and what's not?
Mhm.
Because when you start sharing it, you realize you're not alone most of the time. And secondarily, once it finally comes out, it's not as bad as it is. It's kind of like, you get that bad grade when you're a kid and you're like, my dad's going to beat me, I got an F. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you get an F. And I'm like, I got so many C's and D's, I don't care. I'm like, failed again. Congratulations. But the first one's scary, isn't it? But after a while, it's like, the only time we are a failure, which is never, but it's when you're dead. If you get up that next day, doesn't matter how hard it is fighting the mist, getting up is there. So I want you to go talk about some superhero tactics, things that you have learned that say, hey, this resonated with me, and maybe it resonates with one of the ladies or even a guy that's listening and has gone through this stuff. What do you think that you've learned in this transformation process that you can bring to our audience to help them thrive?
I learned to just be me, to be open and honest, and no matter how scary it is. Like, I've never really talked about my assault as a kid until just recently, and because I was like, I don't know how comfortable people are going to be with it. It's not about other people, it's my self-healing journey, and if I could help somebody else, and that's, like I said before, um then it was worth it. Then it was worth me sharing, not worth the incident, worth me sharing.
Mhm.
And the other mantra that I live by, the your message, your message. So I believe that we all go through something, whether I know how traumatic or terrible it is. If not a lot of people believe it, but I do have faith. I've lost my way, but I came back. I do believe that we go through certain things that God has a message for it. There's a reason for it. And it's probably to teach other people, whatever the case is. But that's how I live. And that's what really helps me get through each day is okay, there's someone I need to help. There's someone I need to talk to. Because you never know who's gonna listen to um read or listen to your message or your post or whatever the case is. It's not about numbers because I used to really believe, oh my gosh, I don't have a lot of likes or followers. It's not about that really. People are
Mhm.
they're watching you, so
Mhm.
don't let that take you away from your mission. Keep
Mhm.
going after what you want to do. Keep going what sets your soul on fire. If that's your passion, then do it. It's gonna be scary. You're gonna fall, but you have to learn to get back up. And I think that's one of the things I've learned in this past year and a half is everything we want to do is going to be scary in the moment, but if that's really what you want to do, you need to go for it. And so that's
Mhm.
why I do what I do. I'm scared I'm not going to get the uh, attention or someone's not going to approve or whatever, but that's not about that anymore. This is about what I want to do, what I love to do most, and so that's why I help people the way that I do is because of that. Self care, I think that's huge, and we forget about it and we neglect it because we're always putting other people first.
Mhm.
Whether it's writing, listening to music, painting, yoga, running, whatever the case is, I think we need to remember to do that every day, at least 5 minutes, at least, whether it's in the morning or at night, because then you just continue through the day, through the week, and you're like, oh my God, what did I do for myself? Nothing, because I kept going for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think and I've learned that just by watching everybody, all of you guys, is we need to go after what we love and take care of ourselves.
And that's huge because it's kind of like brushing your teeth. It's like you go do them once, like, hey, my teeth's not pearly white. I'm like, you did it once, buddy. That's how you did
I know.
it. It's like it's
Exactly.
over time, it's cumulative over time in those 5 minutes. I remember a marriage story I listened to, and they got to like 40 years married. It's from Dr. Gary Chapman's book, and the wife was struggling, and it was like, I just wanted 20 minutes a day with you. And 20 minutes a day is not much, right? It's 1,440 minutes if you do the math, because I'm like lawnmower man. That's like an infinitesimal percent. But the thing is, you do 20 minutes a day times 40 years of marriage, 365 days a year. That's roughly about 14,000 days. That's a lot of time that you missed out. And it's just doing that. And it's the same thing as that self care. It's a little bit a day that's going to help you go over and thrive. I think that's key. And I know for me, it's video games, so 5 minutes is not enough. So I might have to
Right.
do a tad more. It takes 5 minutes to boot the machine. I couldn't play again. Dang, 5 minutes.
At least 5 minutes. It
Yeah,
can
I
go
know.
more.
I know. By the time it boots up, it's a 100 gig game. I'm like, I'm never getting self care. It just
Oh
takes
my
too
gosh.
dang long. Gotta get a faster computer.
Yes.
So, so thank you for sharing those superhero tactics. If you guys saw me looking all crazy, I was getting her website in. So just so you guys know, I populated that last second so you can connect with Annette. I'm hoping your website is right. I wrote this on the fly.
It is.
Yep. So if you ever see me going creepily over there, I'm doing other things for you guys. Just remember that. So if you want to connect with Annette, now you have her website, a wildridecalledlife.com. That's a really cool name. Like,
Thank you.
takes my name to shame. I'm like, war hero to superhero. It's like, that one goes over. It's like, you got so many different ways to pivot. For me, it's like, it's all military. I'm like, I'm invested. I'm done. That's it. So, but yeah, you definitely want to connect with her. And here's my challenge for you guys that are watching and anybody that's attached. So this is how things work. Under normal circumstances on War Hero to Superhero, the TV show that we launched, we go over and get people voted on. So whoever gets the most likes goes over and gets on the show. So we already have our show loaded for Wednesday with Command Sergeant Major Reggie Daniel Sr. You'll see him on Wednesday. But for next month, or in one of our 4th weeks or 5th weeks, if you want Annette to be on our show, she's got to get the most likes in 72 hours. She's also competing with 3 other guests, not hosts, because that'd be me times 4. 3 other guests this week. So 3 seconds is a view. That's all it is. 3 seconds. She told you 5 minutes to recharge. You recharge for 5, 3 seconds to watch your video. That's it. I'm like, I want you to watch the whole thing, of course. But if you're trying to get her onto the TV show, 3-second view in 72 hours from today. If you want her to get launched to our show, that's how it goes. So, and Annette, it's all up to you too. So you can go get share away. So if you guys are watching, so very much appreciate you coming on. Let's go over the comments real quick and then we'll close out and we'll give you one last shout out for anything else, anywhere you want people to connect. Looks like Brian Paul, one of my guests, said, great show. That's awesome. Now you're forever on my show, Brian. And Nicole said, so glad you fought through. So see, one person's life, you've already changed. Bam, just remember that. So any final shots out before we go?
I'm always open. I'm an open book. So if anybody ever wants to reach out to me, I'm always available through my website, Facebook, Instagram. You'll find it all on the website, but I'm always available without judgment. So just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and she's true and authentic. This ain't just, I met her last year at MIC DC.
Yes.
And she might have been just a year in the transformation, but was so authentic, so real, actually truly happy. But we had our pissed moment about MICDC. It was authentic. It was like we were eating sandwiches and we're like, this sucks. And we're like, and it was like that balance of, you know, happy but real, you know, and she's really there. She's truly transformed. You know, I don't meet too many people that you go and like, you went through what? You know, because I can usually tell. They have that face and they're like, everything's fine. Like, no, it damn isn't. And you're just hiding it. You know, she's pretty awesome. So if you want to connect with her, you're going to get the real person that you got in the video. You know, Nicole gave another comment. Shout out. Proud of you both. You're doing great things. Okay. And Nicole, you can do great things by sharing her video so she gets the most views so she can be on the show for next month. All right. So we will, we'll just go sum up this video. We're pretty much done. We're just going to keep smiling and going. So, all right. So thank you guys all for joining. Thank you, Annette, for giving this great interview. And again, we want 10,000 views and 100 shares. So Nicole, start getting your work done. And Brian, you're right behind because you did a comment. And Annette, you too. So we can get you thriving on the show and go from there. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So you all have a good day.